we're here to do a show about AI. What do you have in mind, Dennis?
Well, I have a really burning question here. So we've talked a lot about AI. We have some amazing guests coming up. But what I really want to know from you, I don't know if you can answer this question, but you can try. So I want to know, is AI the reflection of humanity we don't want to see?
I actually think, and that relates a lot to tech itself, it's a reflection of ourselves, right? And we do a lot of biases, right? Because suddenly you can hide a lot of things with nice words, but when you get that very clean reflection of yourself and your history, it's a bit harder to put polite words. So I think a lot of disconnect happens there.
It's definitely
we're creating a machine or just ourselves, right?
Exactly. So look, everybody, welcome to Montreal New Tech Innovators. It's a show about people, organizations who are changing the world through innovative ideas, technology, and science. And so in the spirit of innovation, we're trying out a new platform today. We're on Run the World. It's a very new format for us, new platform. So if something doesn't go right, it's okay. It's great. It's a testing process. We'll make it better next time, and I'm excited to try it out. So Valentin, what do we have in store today?
Okay. So, so right now, basically, we presented ourselves. I'm confused, Dennis, because we have a script, right? And I feel that we're diverging from the script right now. So are we just improvising and making it all casual?
Of course we're improvising. I wrote some words. I told you to change your words. So, we gotta keep it natural and genuine. No, I'm still running with the script, just adjusting as we go.
Oh, okay, perfect. So look, today it's all about, we're going to talk about ethics, and we kind of want to, discuss what are the controversies, what are the fake controversies, what are the news, what are the fake news, and ultimately, what are the issues that are, shaping AI? And as we speak, the goal, of course, is that either AI is a tool that helps us serve humanity or bring us down, right? So we'll get into that hard discussion. And the question is, we're not doing this alone. We'll have a few people around the table who will help us. So let's get started with a quick introduction. So I'll let them pop in on stage. But, can you tell us a bit more about who you are, how you're involved with AI? And we'll give you some bonus points if you can do it in 10 words or less.
And not only that, but please, everybody in the audience, you see that little button at the bottom with the little clapping hands and the glitter, make sure to click that. Let's welcome virtually, put our hands together for our guests. We have some amazing guests. And this is the time where you guys join us. Click the microphone and video button. Hi, Tim. Hi, Alejandro.
Hey.
Ryan. Elham.
So, Tim, say a few words.
Sure. So my name's Tim, co-founder at AI Launch Lab. My background's finance. Really needed to get out of that and into something, an industry that's more fun and has more legs to it. So that's me.
Fantastic. Alejandro, you want to go next?
Okay, well, my name is Alejandro Martinez Ramos. I am the General Coordinator and Programming Director for Montreal New Tech. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you for inviting me to the show.
Our pleasure. Eunice, how about you?
Hey, my name is Eunice. My background is public policy and science and technology, and I've been collaborating with Montreal New Tech right now on the advisory and right now with the AI related projects.
Thank you, Eunice. Ryan, can you go next?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Ryan Kilpatrick here. I'm a research engineer at CanMet Energy Ottawa, which is a federal laboratory with the federal government under Natural Resources Canada. And we recently started up a collaboration with AI Launch Lab to look at some AI techniques for Canada's remote and Indigenous communities, which I'm really excited to talk about more.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And Mehdi, how about you?
Hi. So, basically I'm Mehdi. I'm CEO of Data Farmers. I did research in AI too, and I'm founder of also Applied AI conference. Thanks.
Thanks, Mehdi. Elham, what are you working on?
My name is Elham. I'm postdoctoral researcher at the University of Montreal, working in developing machine learning methods in sustainable finance. And I'm also AI project manager and mentor at AI Launch Lab, especially for their R&D programs. And my background is mathematics. I have a PhD in mathematics. And thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And Shima, what about yourself?
Hi, my name is Shima. I'm a software developer. Currently, I'm working in Innovators Lab. We work with a lot of AI projects, and luckily, when I joined, we start to work on the COVID vaccine distribution. So I'm part of helping the COVID vaccine, and that's really nice, and it's useful project, so I'm glad, and thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
We're very happy to have you. And Ilias, we're so glad to see you here too.
Glad to see you too, guys. Ça fait plaisir de vous voir. Even though there's always still a screen behind the screen, it's a pleasure to see those lovely faces and this energy in the room. I feel almost like a mix between Clubhouse and Hopin. So I'm content de revoir some old and new faces. So that's always renewing the community and the crowd. So good job.
All right. So with that out of the way, let's get into the meat and bones of this show and get into some of the topics I've been trying to ask all of you. Valentin, what do you want to kick us off with?
Okay, so let's kind of go with something. By the way, for the audience, if you have any questions, now is a good time, right? So ask them in the chat. We'll keep an eye on those. I'll probably start with, ethics. Let's start almost by the end. It's something usually we get fun on the detail, on the engineering, and then we worry about the ethics a bit later. What could go wrong, really? So what I want to know is, what are your thoughts on, for example, Google firing their AI ethics researcher? Is it just kind of a hype and in terms of topics, or is it a legitimate issue right now?
Well, you're starting off with the toughest subject.
Oh no, that's the easiest one, guys. It's a way downhill.
We're only gonna get tougher from here.
Wow.
So we can forget about sponsorships, basically.
We're burning all the bridges today.
Does anyone want to jump in? I have some opinions for sure.
Kick us off, Tim.
Go ahead.
I think it's really terrible. I think it's a bad look. I think it's also really unfortunate in the way that it was done. I think Google should be leading rather than. It seems like they've been very reactionary. Even if you don't necessarily disagree with what they've done, I think it's cast a big shadow on the industry overall. And I wish they would have handled it differently. There's still time for them to pick up the pieces, I think. But I am very optimistic based on the kind of the movement that has come up around them. Again, even if you don't necessarily agree with everything that they have to say about it or disagree with how Google handled it, I think it's important to have this oppositional force keeping big tech in check.
Fantastic. Who's agreeing with that? Who wants to play the devil's advocate? Go ahead.
I agree with most of the things that Tim said. And I would just add something that what I think is more important is to identify how a company can lead the agenda on these discussions. And I think to me, that's the main pain point, because AI it's now, and this is how we are addressing from the perspective of public policy and from Montreal New Tech. AI is not a topic concerning only Google and only the main businesses working with it. It concerns us all. Like we've seen during the game that it's kind of hard for us to understand what's human and what's AI, and it definitely impacts everyone. And the main problem from my perspective is that one company may have the power to monopolize the discussion. I think that's when all the experts and the non-experts, but those also interested in the discussion, should have a voice and should have a space where they can express their opinions.
Very, very interesting. And what we played was just a game, right? The impact will be way more interesting, let's say, once those are not games anymore. We have plenty of other questions for sure. Dennis, if it's fine, I'll jump to the next one. I think it'll be a nice follow-up to that.
Yeah, Valentin, do you mind if I take this one over?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been dying to ask this one, and Gabrielle, I know you and I talked about this in the audience. As for preparation for the show, we had a really great discussion about AI and ethics. I'm really excited to have you on screen a little later at 12:30 when we open up to the audience too. But I did want to jump in this right now. And Ryan, I think I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on this too. So when we look at AI and the environment, it's a bit of a double-sided sword where on one end, there's a lot of great research and science coming out using AI to analyze climate change, create models, analyze all the data that we've been collecting. And we all know there's a ton of it out there. But on the other hand, AI uses so much processing power and electricity. So in order to get these models, in order to do these calculations and use AI, we have to harm the environment in a way as well. So that's an interesting discussion that I'm very curious to hear from you guys. Like, what is the responsible thing to do in this case? It doesn't make sense to continue using AI. We have to minimize the data sets in order to make it more efficient. How do we approach this and mitigate the issue of this?
I can quickly jump in. I mean, I think that's absolutely an issue that needs to be addressed and requires more innovation in the space. And to me, it's kind of analogous to Bitcoin mining and some of the blockchain technology. You have this great new tech, but it can cause a very significant environmental impact where the amount of data being processed, the energy needs of the server rooms are just getting bigger and bigger. And that's the direction we're going, just requiring harnessing massive amounts of energy. And yes, we can try to get more of that from renewable sources, but it's creating a very significant impact in terms of our climate change goals that requires more innovation for sure.
So what is the way forward? How do we make sure we take into account both that externality as well as the need for being able to analyze all the data we have?
Honestly, guys, and not to create a false debate, but like I think whether we're talking about Bitcoin or AI and consuming energy, and while I agree we have to save the environment, but I think it's just like throwing fake big debates to take our eyes off who's actually harming the environment and the actual actions we have to take. Making noise in an environment where there is enough noise between AI who's actually making us stay on Facebook and waste our fucking time on Facebook. And we're talking about debates on like AI harming environment, which I agree, but truly, what is the actual percentage of harming the environment versus the good that is being built?
If I can add to that, I don't have an answer. I had more of a question because to me, I think that with this question, we're sort of blaming the wrong person. I think, is it AI, the one that is causing the damage, or is it that we don't have the proper tools to process all this sort of information that is handled by AI? And the same thing with the Bitcoin. Is it the process, or is it the tools that we have built in order to improve how we manage the power, how we process the information? I don't have the answer because I don't have enough information about what's the relationship between the hardware and the AI and machine learning and all those things. But perhaps we are not blaming the right person.
That's really interesting. Keep in mind, by the way, if somebody from the audience have some perspective articles, go in your Google, show us your Google Fu and show us some answers. I'll go from a point that we said earlier of like, for example, Google leading by example, because it's fairly a new industry. I mean, data farming is, all those huge computer centers is not a new thing, but it's growing. And let's say in the scope of things is new. Because it's digital, we can actually measure very specifically the type of impact. And yes, maybe in the relationship of things, as Alejandro said, I'll be very curious to know what percentage it is. But the fact, at least within the context of a new industry, we can actually measure what percentage, what impact it has, because it's only going to scale up. This thing is not calming down. Yeah. Even if we do optimization, there will be more computing, not less, as far as we know, right? If we can get at least a conversation started and actually have real numbers, it might be easier to do in the case of AI than some old legacy industries that the impact might not be as easy to measure.
Mehdi, do you have any comments on all this?
Yeah, I have a lot of comments.
I feel
Yeah, he was like,
imposteur à donner des commentaires là-dessus, puis pas mal d'imposteur là-dessus, là, puis j'aimerais bien t'entendre là-dessus.
Yeah, I think clearly I agree with Alejandro in a way. I think we are blaming maybe the wrong person, but in the same time, we need also to understand that there is an impact. We cannot say there is no impact, but is it the biggest impact? I don't think so. Like we are going in a world of virtualization. Imagine like all these people now speaking all together. If we all of us took cars, buses, anything to move and gather together, and I'm sure it will have like 1,000 time like carbon impact than just having a server like running like this conversation now. The other thing regarding, I didn't follow honestly the details of what happened in Google. And I think also most of the time we blame again like the AI scientists practice and all, but I think we should remember that in every company there is policy. And this policy, no matter like you like it or not, you at a certain moment agree on it. And you sign a contract and you're supposed to read this contract and you're supposed like to agree on it. So there is some internal policies that must be respected in a way, because for me, it's a kind of contract. Like there is no la la land, perfect place where you work and will respect all your ethics. But you basically agreed on some policies. I believe that people need to respect that. And yeah, bringing the opinion like publicly could be like positive in a way. It can create like a common conscience. But I do not agree on the way probably like it went in Google.
I don't want to bring us back to that topic if it's not the way we're supposed to go. But I just wanted to say that I think that even the bigger issue, I do think that Google didn't follow their own policies, and that's another whole issue in terms of how everything went. But I think the bigger issue is corporate funded research, and I think that's the big shadow that's cast across the entire industry. Is this actually independent? Are they allowed to really publish research that is independent if it's being funded that way?
That's a good question. Like it's a very, very, very complex topic, and because in the side that research needs like funding, and the funding basically needs to follow like a sort of monetary purpose to find someone to fund it. Even the government, by the way, the government is not offering it for free. If the government invests like an amount of money in research, probably like there is probable measurable impact that could happen out of that. So when companies like fund research, I think it's a really good thing, because this technology that most of you are using today, it's mainly funded by the private sector. But I think we need to work on maybe transparency. Like if like there is a research funded for a specific private purpose, it needs to be not presented as independent. And this is like the point. It's yes, like the private research is more than welcomed, but I think it's important to mention that there is money purpose behind it, and which is okay, by the way.
We might actually have a key here in the sense that if we look at the discussion over environment, of the policies, the fact it changes quickly, having transparency and, report and due diligence, and not just keep it internally, but sharing it, creates a powerful narrative of like, look, we're figuring this thing out, in terms of funding, in terms of environmental impact, but here's the numbers that we know, right? And not all organizations are in that cultural mindset where they feel that it's worth taking the risk to share their data, right? They share data when it's clear what the positive impact for them will be, but sharing it when you're not sure, that's a whole other mindset. Exactly. Dennis, you want to roll with another wave of questions?
Yeah, let's do it. So rolling off of this one, another jump into more ethics before we kind of move on, just because this one's also, I feel like it touches on a lot of people and a lot of lives. And this one would be about AI in the labor market. So as with many other industries, AI is incredibly disruptive, or technology, AI is very disruptive. And so we definitely will feel impacts on the labor market of people being displaced from their jobs. And so, especially, and I know this is also a big part of the discussion today, is the education element in regards to AI. Right now it's still quite early. There's still a lot of things to be done and a lot of people to transition to the new labor market. So how do we make sure that the people who are displaced by AI technology developments, how do we transition to the new labor market? How do we deal with those who lose their jobs and don't potentially have the opportunity to get the training in order to find the other jobs that are being created? It's a fairly open-ended discussion. I wanted to throw that out there because
I want to add a sub-question to that, Dennis.
Yes.
Because things move fast and not all industries move at the same pace. You cannot just send everybody back to school because that's just not how it works. And my sub-question to that is there a field that comes in mind to you right now that you think currently, until we know better, AI should absolutely not be involved in there? There's enough places to work on AI, but this currently, it will be responsible to go there.
Yeah.
I can jump in very quickly. Thank you. Over the last 5 years, that was exactly what I was working. I was basically with some ministries of science and technology. They've been exploring which is the next way to develop developed economies, like not necessarily like those tech or science oriented technologies. At some point, they won't be labor intensive. So which is the next step? I've heard several options, but the most, and between the spectrum is like subsidies to people to get trainings. But the truth is that more people will be displaced than the people that will be used. So no matter if you retrain them all, you're never going to be able to absorb the same human force into the jobs you previously had. So one option that I've heard at UNESCO, which I found very useful, is maybe we have to redefine labor, and maybe we have to redefine what is economy or which are the meanings of labor. Because maybe we should include those people displaced and these current jobs to do something that's valuable for us, like planting trees or creating other kind of value for the society, not necessarily related to a job as the way we understand it right now. Again, this is probably the most disruptive discussion that I've heard from experts in public policy, but the trend is been there. Like maybe we are not going to be able to work in the way we understand work because the tools we are developing and the technologies we are developing are going to be able to keep us productive without the need of as many human force as we understand as right now.
If I can jump on this subject because I like it and I speak about it since South by Southwest 2017. Have you read the book Bullshit Jobs of David Graeber? I really recommend this book. It's basically a real theory. It's not just a book, it's a theory. It's an economist that wrote a theory where there is a lot of fake jobs. And the fake jobs are kind of jobs that if you remove like the people that are doing from the job from an organization, there is no impact, neither positive, neither negative that will happen. Nothing will happen. So we should remember that when people design like AI technologies, mainly is to automate things that we were not able to automate. Tasks, recognition, any cognitive based like tasks that we are annoyed like from doing it, and we want to accelerate that because we want to have more speed. We wanted to have it less, cost less. So any person that will write a check to an organization that design AI, like us, for example, they have this kind of objective. So we have a lot about, we want to improve human life. That's not true. Like, that's fake. Like, most of the organizations are seeking for revenues. And by doing that, simply because they are trying to solve a bottleneck. I can give you a concrete example project that I'm working on today. So, in Quebec, for example, there is a lot of factories missing people. And why they're missing people? It's not because the job is complex, because the job is boring. Like, one of my customer, they need people that cut meat in an environment between 1 and 3 degree Celsius. And the whole day you do just one task. And they are seeking for young people to do that. And I'm so sorry, I don't think in the internet world there is any 20 years old person who have like the hope to do that kind of job. And they are not able to hire.
Unless we turn Fruit Ninja into a virtual reality headset connected to a robot in the factory who just does the cutting. And all you got to do is you got to swing.
Or unless you do an AI that will do that, by the way, that is fully capable. I think the real solution, I participate to 1 million task force in G20, G8, 7. So one simple solution here is wealth distribution. Distribute the wealth. I think it's like food in the US. We produce 6 times more food than one we need. Just distribute it, right? So and even education, it's I agree with the comment of it's it's so fast, the transformation. It's very hard for me to convince someone that work in that factory that I'm telling you about at 55 years old. Basically, come get like some AI, like Coursera thing, and you will be an AI scientist. That's not a truly effective solution. I think it's morely about wealth distribution.
Dennis, I just want you to note it is now 12:35, and it took us about 35 minutes, and now we're finally talking about universal income and AI communism. We achieved it, Dennis. Our URSS plan will work.
And we made them think of it themselves. We didn't even bring it up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, I think what I just heard mentioning, Mehdi, it highlights 2 points. Eunice too, like Eunice and Mehdi, you mentioned.
Okay, just to echo you, that's basically the main idea from those debates that I was recalling. It's no longer a matter of productivity because we found the way to be productive without actually having a lot of people in the ground. It's more about distribution. It's more about how do we understand the economy and how do we understand the society. It's no longer about having someone cutting meat. It's more about what do we really want? Do we want a greener world? Let's plant trees and let's pay for it. And do we want to have more leisure time and to be productive with that, whichever the definition of productivity. So humans will be more productive doing something else, not necessarily the tasks that we can automatize. That's just the final point.
Yeah.
Just to quickly jump in, Alejandro, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Because we're running on time very quickly, actually. It's already 12:36, and I promise to our audience that at 12:30, we're going to open up the microphones to them. So if you feel like joining the conversation, you have a question for one of our audience members, our guests, or you just have a comment, feel free to jump in. And all you got to do is you got to press the little microphone button down below, and we'll be able to add you to the chat as well. So you're more than welcome to join us.
Yeah, because there's 3 pages of questions, and I think we've done 4 questions. To give you an example. So, Dennis, from there, we just do this show every, 2 weeks, and we don't even have to create new content. We're not going to roll through it.
Well, I think you should just keep it rolling and doing it every week here on Club. Is there anyone here around the table while they're waiting on people to jump in who haven't spoken yet and who would like to give their opinion on this?
Yeah, Ilham and Shima, we'd love to hear a little bit more from you as well. And then I want to open it up as well, so we don't necessarily need to jump into these specific topics, but I do want to bring it up, what are we missing from your perspective? What's not getting enough attention and what's getting too much hype? So please jump in and then let us know.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight, but I'm not quite sure, Dennis, that that's what you have in your agenda for next. Because as I'm hearing talking Mehdi and Eunice and the rest of us, there's 2 points that I see connected to this. I think that we cannot generalize everyone on the same bucket. For example, I know that for people under certain age, that might be difficult for them to say, okay, I'm going to learn something new, something that, by the way, is not as easy as AI, machine learning, and blah, blah, blah. And then at this age of my life to change and, oh yeah, I'm going to get another job on this. When the realities of the market, for example, is like people at certain age, they are not accepted in the market for whatever reason and starting from zero. That's one point. And others who are just like they are young and they are younger, they can switch, they can learn more. So that highlights one point, which is AI training for certain people. But the second point is also, as Mehdi was saying, there's certain jobs that it doesn't make sense for just one person go push a button and be paying tons of money, but just because there's no one that can go up north to the oil fields or whatever other place to do that job. And that's why they can make even $150,000 a year just for going and push a button and spend the rest of the day without doing anything, just getting bored because there is not even way how to do a social life over there. So that has to do with AI, how you apply AI. Is there a real tangible jobs that we are really profiting the technology, AI or others to do that job? Because otherwise we can spend time talking about AI, blah, 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 without doing any effective work. So there's two subjects that I would like to hear more about. Because as I think that Gabriel said, like how to turn this, all the negativity aspect that we speak about, the lack of ethics, about the lack of working real things, and turn it into something positive. So what if we focus on these two positive things? Like how do we educate people in AI and to what degree of education should we give them? Because do I need someone who is a PhD in AI when perhaps I just need someone who is a whatever other background, life science or whatever, but they need just an understanding of how AI works so they can collaborate with somebody who's an expert. They don't need as much training in that. And on the other side, well, also, how do we do real things with AI?
Yeah, I would love to hear the perspectives of Elham and Shima on that. Elham as a postdoc researcher, or Shima, whoever wants to go ahead.
Yes, something that I can add to it is about the level of education in AI at the university, because AI now is a hub and is interesting for people to learn because they want to solve like many problems. They can see that, okay, if I get a master's degree and then I be a data scientist, so at the end I can easily find a job. But for us that we want to hire a data scientist, something that's important for us is understanding that how they learn to apply AI in different problems. Okay. And then when we ask questions, okay, what kind of projects you have done? And then explain to us. But I can see that like in the universities, they give some assignments to students, but they say that, okay, apply this method and solve this problem. And then for them is not about like doing research and understanding why I have to use this methodology. Is there another methodology in the state of the art of artificial intelligence that I can use and get like better results and get a better performance? Why you can ask, but when I ask the questions from students, they don't know that what's the reason. But there is one lack in our education is about the research, especially in AI, that understanding like different methodology and understanding, okay, when I can use this method, when I can use and train this model, or where and what is the benefit that I can get from applying these tools, and then make one tool that is in an optimized way. You talked about like a perfect word, but for us is like learning that which methodology would be the best. I think there is one lack in the university that teach them is only that they can, use AI, but they don't know. And I can highlight the work at AI Launch Lab, because at AI Launch Lab is a research and development. Students can get involved with an idea, and then try to understand, and then to see that, okay, how I can use AI and solve a new problem for me. And this is something that I think I cannot see it at the university level, but they can find and get some experience in AI Launch Lab.
I have a question regarding the program. And I was talking earlier to Ines about this program. There's a conjoint program that Montreal New Tech and AI Launch Lab we're working on putting together for soon. We will tell more about it later. Sometimes we mention to it as AI training program, R&D or research and development program. Are there more like these here in Quebec?
I would also maybe turn that question to Shima, who's somebody who kind of broke into AI. You were a software developer before, right? What was your experience? Because I know you did a lot of hackathons to try to get more experience.
The things with the Montreal and the AI is a little bit biased. That's what I can tell. So I work a lot to get to the field, even though I was in this field. So there is a huge bias, and I think also the advertisement, and they all look at fresh graduate as if the person who graduated 4 years ago, the knowledge is absolute. So I was dealing with that. I get to this field, or I pushed to this field because my previous company moved toward the AI. And as I can add to the previous topic, is the AI is mostly going to be applied in a repetitive tasks. I know we keep saying AI will take the whole world, all the jobs and everything. So it cannot. They are really good to do the repetitive task when something that has the pattern. So we cannot replace all the jobs. They are not really good with social working. They don't have emotion. They can be there, but they can do one task, and it's really hard to be multitask. So they cannot replace all the jobs. But at the same time, so there are certain jobs that is useful to use AI. For us was like some people in a factory looking at the defects, we wanted to try to classify them. So that is really good task for the AI rather than human looking at them. So with the recent technology and the hardware and all, we can do that. So my company moves toward that. And then I learned that in the past, the accuracy and the performance of the machines and the robots was very low. With the new GPU and the hardware, we get to the better accuracy. So I moved toward that. And then in order for me to boost up my knowledge to the latest, I followed a lot of YouTube's courses. And then I learned about the meetups. I went to many meetups events. So if you want to learn, you go to meetup, you watch the podcast. And then through the meetups, I learned hackathon. I'm not sure many kind of courses or internship that easily will offer to you. Meetups are really, really amazing. You people speaks, you get the new technologies and latest research. Really, really good. You make the networking, and then through that, I got familiar with the AI to other programs and the current program. So I joined the cohort program, which was really a given to me for free. That was really good. I didn't need to go through interview, to go through the company being chosen because I'm the best person so yes, I think there are not a lot of easy program to get. AI Launch is the best one to me. And what was really good that you were able to work on the real challenge of the company's problem rather than just a simple project you have in universities, which is the data is limited. The environment is really controlled. When you work in a real actual environment, there are tons of issues, and the data has a lot of issues. You have to deal with those. You learn them there. So I say this program is really good because you can work 3 months with some companies, and also you will see other projects there. So yeah, that's how I got to this field. But I can say the bias in this field is high. They all need PhD students. They don't appreciate experience. So they think if you have PhD, you can solve all the problem. And
if I may, I have to run. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean. Elham, I think you wanted to say something?
No, that's nothing.
No, you first.
Yeah.
No, I didn't want to say something because I have a PhD. She said that. PhD.
No. I wasn't.
Yeah, all the PGs out of the room.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is not involved anymore.
No. I wasn't meant that. I was just.
No, it's okay. No,
it's the biased. That's
Shima,
it. Yes, sorry.
Thank you for your témoignage. I don't know how you say that in English. I have to run, but I think there are two things that were highlighted that I actually would like to double highlight. There is a lot of confusion on AI, applied AI, what a PhD does, who does what, and even at the government level. Like there are a bunch of grants that are asking for AI or that are requiring AI, but tangibly it requires or it's more about data science. And on the other hand, there are a lot of startups, and I'm not going to name anyone, who hires a PhD but who wants applied AI. And like there is a lot of bullshit between what is research, what is applied. And I am an imposter. I don't know anything about AI almost. I know nothing about technology, and I wouldn't have the arrogance to say what is what. But what is being highlighted, and what I invite people to do is one, check, and I don't mean that as an advertisement, but when we were discussing and where the team was discussing about the talk or the chat today, there was two things that were highlighted: the applied or applicability or implementation of AI for people who are not necessarily at a super high level through this AI education program. And I think few people are sharing the link in the chat. And I think it's worth it. And I hope that if there are any startups in the room or any potential mandator in the room or people who know, give it a chance. And of course, they want participants as well, but also mandators, and potentially mandators that can challenge the program itself, because it's a newborn program. It's not very old. It has few additions, but it wants to increase its quality. So if anyone can give a mandate or challenge the program itself so that there is a proper mandate. The second one on applied AI is Mehdi from Data Performers is organizing a conference coming up next week. It's a series of conference that goes beyond the hype, beyond the bullshit of people who are actually delivering AI. And the challenge, again, when you talked about research and scientists, etc., versus application, it comes with the naive view when you think that PhD can solve everything. Same way if you're like, oh, ethics has to be at the paramount of everything, or climate or AI is bad for environment, and all that bullshit. We have to cut through the noise that takes the media, that takes sometimes even the funding. And you all know the story that I'm not going to talk about. So those practical aspects of AI, we need to inspire more people to join, and applied AI and conference in a way can be very relevant for people who are interested to learn, but also to cut the crap. Because as a society, we need to cut the crap. We need to say the real things, because otherwise we're wasting our time, and I don't like to waste our time.
What if we
just to briefly echo on what Ilya said? I think the value added, or the most important value added to these kind of programs, is how you can easily socialize AI. And the more we socialize the discussions, the harder is going to be for one single company to monopolize the agenda and to monopolize the discussion on these topics, like the case we've seen at the beginning with Google. So I think that's the main, from my perspective, that's the main takeout from these kind of programs.
Let's talk about the two initiatives. What if we focus on apply AI, and then after we jump on the AI training program? Does that sound cool?
So we can definitely do that, but I do want to let you guys know we're coming up. It's 12:53. I do want to make sure that we spend a little bit of time and give each of you a chance to pitch and talk about what you're working on as well. And after that, at 1 p.m., what we're going to do is we're going to open up 2 breakout rooms. So we'll have one breakout room to continue the conversation about AI. And, if anybody interested can transition over there. Otherwise, there's going to be a second breakout room as well, what we're calling the VIP experience, behind the scenes with Montreal New Tech and Innovators. And we'd love to invite our audience to join us there as well to have a conversation about the show and give us some feedback as well. So I want to just let you guys know that we have about 7 minutes at this main stage, and then we'll break up and continue the conversation there. And we'd love to make sure that, if you have time to stay on and continue the conversation, great. If not, of course, you're free to leave. We're not gonna, hold you hostage, but I do want to make sure we give each of you a chance to, let the audience know what you're working on and how they can find out more about it.
Exactly. Dennis, did you invite someone for the open mic?
Yeah, we have Carolina here as well. Carolina, is there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, you've been very patient. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, my name is Carolina. I'm a passionate woman in tech, and I have a small question for you women here. Why did you decide to enter the world in technology world, and specifically in AI? And how do you define the fact that you are working in between men? How do you feel about that? And how can you invite women to be involved in that fantastic work?
I can start. So, my major field of science, it was always mathematics. So that was because of my interest that I had towards mathematics. So I have my bachelor and master and my PhD in mathematics. That's my that was my interest, and the thing that I thought that it's I was very good at it, and that's the main thing that I got towards AI, because during my PhD I have done some projects using AI, and I found AI can be used as an way to make an optimal decision, which is very important in making decisions with many companies. And during my PhD, I was the only woman in my lab. So we were around 10 people and working in many subjects in mathematics. And during that 5 years, I was the only woman in the group. And I was asked my supervisor, what's the reason that, I am the only one and you don't get another student? And he said that because I didn't see that much interest from women to get involved in this field. And this is a major thing that, for example, I had many classes at university to teach, and I saw that classes that was more about engineering, I can see less women. And the classes that was more in about, nursing or medical things, I can see that, many women have interest there. And I think that's the main thing that is about interest. I don't know how the word is deciding for women about their interests, but this is the way that I saw. And for my role is I volunteer to help and engage more women in AI. I am involved in the Athena Pathway. Is a program that is specifically for women. That you voluntarily help women to get involved and then learn AI. It's about 1 year that I get involved in Athena Pathway. And I met many women there and helped them. And also I am in Women in AI in Canada, and also climate change tech women that help women and encouraging women to get involved more in climate change. And this is the way that I saw that I can help women, because we need women to make AI tools. Is the AI tools is when it's generated by men, they're making decisions that maybe is more biased, yes, because they're the label of data to train your model based on that data set that is generated by men. So that is something that we should involve more women and encourage more women to get involved in AI.
I also just want to really quickly say that obviously I can't speak to it from experience, not being a woman, but from the women in my life that I've spoken to, and what I've seen, in practice, even as a man, it's a pretty hostile environment in universities. I mean, already, you're facing every step of the way from childhood that like this is not for you. You're supposed to go do these other things. And then, every step of the way, there's this attrition, which is either because you're not treated well. That could be other students, that could be other teachers. Also, there's, many more men. So it's also just, you don't feel as welcome. And, it gets to a point where, at Concordia University, where you'll have many classes that are, you'll be lucky if you'll have 5 women out of 150 students. And there's nothing's being done about this. And then, then you just get this kind of a bro mentality. So I think we can definitely do a lot better. That's one of the reasons why I think AI Launch Lab has a purpose to create an environment that is actually conducive towards inclusivity and diversity and is welcoming. But it's pretty shocking to me that in 2021 that the state of affairs is still so hostile to welcoming women. I mean, there's only between 12 and 18% of women in AI in Canada today. It's actually gone down since 1990. Yeah, it's great to see if we could give Ryan a chance to speak.
Yes, I want to hear what Ryan's role is going to be, what NRC role is going to be during the program, because I believe that highlights we already highlighted the benefit of the program towards the general audience, but not towards the industry. Ryan.
Yeah, sure. I can give a quick little pitch. So essentially, one of the areas that I work in is on northern energy. So there are about 300 communities in Canada, remote communities, most of which are Indigenous, that rely on diesel fuel essentially for 100% of their heating and electricity needs. And so there's a big push both at the government level in terms of climate change goals and decarbonization, also from the communities themselves about becoming more energy resilient, about having more control and ownership of their energy generating assets, as well as improvements to local air quality that can be made by replacing some of the diesel generators with wind power and solar and batteries or geothermal biomass. So kind of harvesting the local resources to the extent possible. And so that's the work we're doing really, is analyzing what the potential is for these clean energy alternatives to replace existing diesel fuel. And so if you can imagine, there's a lot of data that we're trying to use in our analysis, whether it's like local meteorology, weather data, how the different energy systems interact with each other. There's optimization questions. There's a big question of just about understanding what the community buildings look like, how much energy they use, how that varies throughout the year, and doing this on hundreds of communities. So I want to emphasize too, so we have this proposal with the AI Launch Lab for the 8-week program, R&D program, starting in June. So we're really excited about that. And there's different aspects of the whole process for people to get involved in, from the data collection and consolidation all the way through testing machine learning algorithms that can help us do this analysis. I want to emphasize, we're not doing this alone. We have partners with Indigenous Clean Energy Network. So it's a group of kind of local energy champions that actually live in these communities and are invested in advancing clean energy projects. There's more that we could be doing to engage local community members, and that's something, it's a very important part of this whole ethics discussion and making sure that people actually benefit from it. So there's a lot more we want to be doing there, but that's a little pitch. So please feel free to reach out to me if you'd like more information.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you, Ryan. Dennis, I'll do a quick conclusion and then we split into groups. Works for you. I think there's some interest, like absolutely unfair what you tried to achieve, Dennis. We had like 3 pages of questions. We rolled through a few. But what I see as a common theme is lowering the barrier of entry in the field, in AI as a way of thinking, right? And of course, as you lower the entry barrier, so it's not just for, only for research, it's research, but also way more accessible. As we get that, for example, I come from the world of communication. I can tell you in my university class, and people doing not like the physical filming, the hardware stuff, it was essentially women, right? You come and you have, the problem here is just the lack of diversity from the point of views, right? And as you bring any technology and you make it more accessible in the field, the discussion becomes more interesting. You have more and more perspective. And I think that's what's going to happen with AI. We're going to bring more AI into climate, environment, into all those biases that we have, into very different type of fields that didn't connect with it, and it will explode. So Dennis, if you think we have just 3 pages of questions right now, it will get worse, but the discussions will be more interesting because they will leverage the playing field. How's that for a conclusion? Want to switch to?
That sounds great, Valentin. And I wanted to say, I know we've already lost some of our guests, but it was a fantastic conversation. I'm really glad all of you were able to join us today. And I wanted to ask our audience, please, again, let's do a virtual round of applause for everyone taking the time today to join us today, to have this great conversation. So smash that hand clapping button, show some love, some community love for everyone taking the time today to talk about this amazing topic and bring their unique perspectives to the conversation.